What is up, guys? Welcome to episode 5 of Monologue with Mason, where we talk about different questions that hopefully will be relevant to your life and help you out, as well as some other topics that I find important or you guys find important that we go over and talk about. Couple of announcements real quick. First of all, I do want to say that my 2 new shirt designs, my When My Workout Starts and my Move Mountains shirt, sorry about that, I totally lost track of where I was going there for a second, are both available now, so you guys can head over to my website and purchase those now. That way you can grab those shirts, wear those at the gym, wear those out in public, all of those kind of things. Tank tops in all of those designs, as well as my Mason's Fitness design, will be available soon as well. I'm just waiting on some samples to come in, make sure the material's good quality. I believe it is, but I'm only kind of looking at numbers there. I haven't actually felt the material. Want to make sure you guys are getting the best material and the best shirt possible. So I'm just waiting on the samples to come in for the tank tops, and then those will be available hopefully next week. That's kind of when I'm expecting the samples and finish up the last couple things for the tank tops. But those should be coming soon as well. Got 3 topics that I want to talk about today. The first is the fact that small improvement will result in something big, and big improvement and a change in your life, big accomplishments. I think it is super easy for us to get discouraged, for us to not think that anything's making an actual success. What we're doing is not having any impact, and it's because we're doing something small or we're seeing very little progression. And that is just not the case. I think it is very rare for us to do something big in a day that is going to completely change things. Does it happen? Absolutely. It does not happen frequently. Most of the time, something big that happens to someone, a big breakthrough, a big accomplishment, comes from days and days and months and years, depending on who it is, what it is, for it to happen, right? It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a significant amount of time to get there. And we have to remember that when we're going about our daily life, that little accomplishments, little improvements will result in big improvements, big accomplishments, big achievements. I think a great example of this is working out. If you add 1 rep to whatever exercise you're doing, let's take squats for example. Let's say you manage to get 8 squats with a certain weight, right? I'm like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good. Next week, you got 9 squats with that same weight. You're like, man, I thought I had gotten stronger. I only got 1 more. Okay, the week after that, you get 10, 11, 12. You decide to bump up the weight. You maybe go back to 6 or 8 or something. You work on that. You may be thinking, I'm only increasing by 1 rep, right? You've only increased by 5-10 pounds in a month, right? A couple months, depending on how fast you're improving. I'll never lift a lot of weight. I'm still stuck at 135 pounds, whatever it is. And I started at 130 2 months ago. Well, just keep working on that, because a year down the line, what are you going to be at? If you keep adding 5 pounds every month, well, that's a lot of extra weight. That's a big improvement. So you got to think of it like that. It compounds over time. And little step, little achievement, that will compound over time. And if you take that 1 step forward, another step forward, even if it's little steps, it is still progress moving forward. And so don't look at if you're making big steps and looking at how far you have come. Just make sure you're taking little steps and your steps are moving in the right direction, because if your steps are moving in the right direction, I guarantee it. You are getting better, and you will continue to get better. It is impossible not to get better with taking little steps. We also have to remember that if improvement is not a steady line up, right? We want to think of improvement, even if we do have the mindset of little steps. I think it's also easy to assume that we will always be able to take that little step forward. Like, okay, that's fine. I'll increase 5 pounds a month, but then when they have a month that they don't increase any weight, right? Maybe they go down a month. They're like, what's going on? I was making small improvements. Now I'm not even making small improvements. I'm actually going backwards, or I'm staying stagnant. Maybe it's been 3 months and you're staying stagnant. Maybe it's not even working out. Maybe it's your business, right? Your business is staying stagnant. Oh man, we were increasing revenue consistently. It was a little bit, but we were increasing. Now all of a sudden we're down. Now all of a sudden we're stagnant. We're making the same amount we did last month, not having any additional increase. Well, that's okay, because that's going to happen. You're never going to keep moving up. There will be times you stay stagnant, and there will be times that you actually get worse. And what's important is keep trying to take those steps forward. If you keep trying to take those steps forward, eventually you will work yourself out of that rut. Now, that doesn't mean you do the same thing over and over again and hope eventually you get out of it. No, you may need to use some wisdom. You may need to take some time and say, okay, let's look at things. Why are we making the same amount of money? Let's look at our marketing a little bit. Okay, well, we slacked off in marketing, or we're using the same marketing tactics over and over again. Maybe we need to try something new. Oh, well, we've slacked off on our advertising on Instagram. We've slacked off in this advertising, right? We're not putting as much time into it. Right? Okay, we need to reinvest. Oh, we need to spend a little bit more money over here to make sure we can increase our product quality. And then we can maybe bring in some additional revenue, right? We're going to try to figure out what's keeping us stagnant or backwards, and then let's try to overcome it and continue taking those steps forward. I'm not saying that you don't do that. That is a huge aspect of improvement, is looking at what's going on and constantly be adjusting and adapting and figuring out how you can constantly push forward and get better. Maybe, going back to that workout example, maybe you need to switch up your exercise a little bit. You've been stuck doing that squat over and over and over, and maybe you're like, you know what? I'm going to switch up my exercise. I'm going to go from squats, and I'm actually going to still do some squats, but maybe change up my rep scheme a little bit. Maybe I've been trying to hit a 8 to 12 range. I'm going to back up a little bit, and I'm going to try to maybe go either a little bit heavier, but with less reps. I'm going to maybe try to stay in a 5 to 8 range. Or maybe I'm going to try to go 15 plus. Or maybe I'm going to switch up the exercise altogether, and I'm going to focus on Bulgarian split squats or leg press. Or I'm going to work on my tempo a little bit. Maybe I'm going to do squats in the 8 to 12, but I'm going to try to go really slow. I'm going to try to hit 5 seconds down, 5 seconds back up. I'm going to hit a pause. I'm going to do drop sets. I'm going to do whatever it is, changing up, readjusting, figuring out what's going on, right? All of that is important in making those improvements forward. So don't get caught up in small improvements are not going to make big results. No, they will. If you keep at it, if you stay consistent, you will be able to keep pushing forward and getting better and better and better. And you can't always assume that everything's going to be a straight line up. There may be some dips. You're going to go up and down. You may be explode in improvement and achievement, and then you may dip down a little bit and then explode again and then slowly move up and then stay stagnant for a while. It is going to be up and down, but as long as overall in the bigger picture you are still moving up, that is what's important in your improvement and achievements. Second thing I want to talk about is conflict. I want to talk about this in a couple different areas. First, as human beings, as Christians, and as men in particular, we cannot be afraid of conflict. But we also should not jump at the opportunity to be involved in conflict. There's this middle ground, right? And I think, obviously, too often, you see one or the other. I'm sure you all know someone who, and their name's probably going to pop right into your head, who, no matter what's going on, no matter what's said, they have an opposing viewpoint. They just want to argue. They want to get in your face, right? And maybe it's a friend who does it in a more joking way, but they kind of like that conflict, right? Or maybe you have a coworker who just always gets on people and is angry with everything and gets involved in conflict and always complaining and trying to get their way and trying to start rumors and, right, just involved in all of that conflict and everything that comes around that. Right, you probably know people like that. So you have people who do that, and then you have people who avoid conflict. They're scared of it. It makes them nervous. They don't like going anywhere near it. They'd rather ignore an issue. They'd rather completely step out of it. They'd rather sacrifice something. They'd rather someone get hurt, themselves, their family, their coworker, whoever it is, if they don't have to deal with the conflict, because that scares them. Neither of those are okay. We need to be in the middle. We shouldn't jump on everything and try to be all in the conflict all of the time. We need to be wise, but we also can't avoid it. We need to be ready to step into conflict at all times, and we need to be ready to to stand for someone. And conflict is, I'm talking conflict in general, it's physical conflict. You need to be ready to stand up and fight for someone physically if necessary. If you are walking down the street and you see someone who is getting beat up, right, being attacked, it is your job as a man to step in and physically start that conflict. Or not start it, it's already been started. But you need to step in and take them out if you can. Stop them, protect that person, right? But it's also emotionally and with your words and logically, right? You need to fight for what you believe in. You need to fight for people. You need to stand up to people and say, you don't treat them like that. Right? You may be able to need to get in that verbal conflict, right? But you shouldn't jump at the opportunity. Someone shouldn't say something to you and your first instinct is to punch them in the face or yell at them, right? Something doesn't go your way, someone does something different, it should not be your first instinct to attack them. That's not appropriate. So there's this middle ground. A man needs to always be ready to step into conflict. And I do understand that stepping into that conflict may mean loss on your part. You may look like a fool. You may get embarrassed. There may be consequences at your job, depending on who you have to stand up to. There may be consequences in relationships. There may be physical consequences. You may get physically hurt, right? But you need to be ready, and you need to be prepared, and you need to be willing to take on that, right? But you also need to enter conflict with wisdom. You shouldn't go in guns blazing, just in conflict with everyone. So we need to find this middle ground. It's also important, and as men, it's easy to get angry at something. And anger is not wrong. It's what you do with your anger. If you get angry at a situation, and maybe it is appropriate you step in, you cannot step in and let your anger control what's going on. You cannot step in and let your anger take control of you. You need to let your anger, you need to feel it. I'm not saying try to stop it. That is a good emotion to have as long as You are the one in control of what you do with that anger. You need to allow that anger to come in, to talk through what's going on, to figure out how you're going to combat this situation, and then you need to have the courage to do it. And dealing with conflict takes a lot of forms. I've learned this a lot lately as I've been involved in a couple different conflicts and trying to figure out how I'm going to step into these situations and when it's appropriate and to what extent is it appropriate. And it takes a lot of forms, right? Sometimes stepping into this conflict, the wisest thing to do is to not confront the person. It is to console someone, to be there for someone, to offer up advice, right? That is entering into that conflict to some degree, right? But maybe it's not wise for you to confront that person. That is an area of protection, an area of addressing conflict. But sometimes it's not appropriate for you to step in all the way to the extent of talking to the other person, right? Or talking to the opposing force. But sometimes it is time to call them out. You need to talk to them, right? You need to tell them, this is not okay. You can't be doing this. But you need to do it in a calm, mature, logical way. You need to be firm. I think people get this confused, and men especially. There is a difference between firm and calm, and there's a difference between angry and getting your way. And people assume that you can't be calm and stern, right? That you have to be angry to portray your point, right? I need to stand up and be strong, so I'm going to yell at you. Well, why can't you be calm, but say, this is not going to happen again? And that is how we need to address things. We can't let that anger go. Sometimes there will be times where you have to say, this cannot happen again. If there is, there will be consequences. You do not treat this person like this. But you can't yell at them, get angry, get in their face, say, if you do this again, the consequences are I'm going to come over, I'm going to beat the living crap out of you. Right? Well, that's angry. That's aggressive. No. But you can say, look, the way you treated this person was not okay. I can't tolerate that. You cannot treat them like that again, or I may have to take action. I don't know what those actions are going to be yet, but I may have to remove you from my life and say you're not allowed to come around them anymore, right? Or if you do this again, I'm going to go to the police with this, right? Or I'm going to go to this authority. Right? You need to have consequences, right? And depending on the situation, it may be I'm going to beat the crap out of you, right? Depending on what it is. I think those times are very, very rare, but maybe someone was physically hurting someone. You pushed them off. And you said, you do this again, and I'm not just going to get you off of them, but you're done for, right? I'm going to get you off of them, and you're never going to come near them again. I'll make sure of that. Right? Depending on, you have to be wise, and every situation is slightly different. So enter into that conflict with wisdom on how you're going to take care of it. The last thing I want to talk about is how important a morning routine is. And I'm not talking about the specifics of a morning routine. I'm not saying, oh, you need to get up at a certain time and that's how you're going to make your morning routine successful, or you have to get up and you have to do all of this stuff, right? And this will make a magical morning routine. I don't want to say that, because there are so many ways to make a morning routine work for you. And everyone's different. My morning routine probably won't work for you. There may be parts of it that work. There may be parts of it that will be hugely beneficial to you. There may be parts that are like, you know what, this is making my life worse, right? So you have to find the morning routine that works for you. But I do think it is important for a couple of things. One, The time you wake up is not necessarily important, or is not as important as two things. One, you need to get up in you need to get up in time to do your morning routine without shirking off any other responsibilities. This morning routine should not obviously go into messing up what time you get to work in time. You need to be there on time, regardless. So that's the first thing about what time you get up. And the second thing, I think this is even more crucial, is you get up when you say you're going to get up. If you say you're getting up at 4:30, that's the time you get up. If you say you're getting up at 6, that's the time you get up. If you say, and depending on your job, if you say I'm getting up at 9, that's what time you get up. I think that's more important than the actual time. But you need to have that discipline to say, I am going to get up at this time, and when that time comes, you get up. The other thing that's important about a morning routine and really helps you in that morning routine and start your day off right is you need to get to doing something productive and that betters either yourself, your family, society, whatever it is, to push you forward. If you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're like, oh, I'm all disciplined, and you sit down and play on your phone till 6, there was no point in you getting up that early. That was a wasted morning routine. Or you should have stayed in bed and slept. That way you're at least healing your body and you're at least providing extra rest. Right? It would have been better for you to do that than get up and waste time aimlessly on your phone. So what you do with your morning routine and your time is important, and you need to push forward. Whether that is getting up and working out, make sure your body is fit, make sure you're physically ready. Right? Whether that is getting up and working on your business, whether that's getting up and learning something, you need to get up and have those productive aspects of your life. And anything that is producing is inherently better than consuming. The more you can produce, the better your morning routine. If you can, and even in learning, there is still a production aspect to that. I'm going to learn something and I'm going to apply it. That is an important aspect of learning, which is why you can still think of it as producing if you have that mindset of learning. Because you're not just consuming information just to consume it. You're like, I'm going to consume this bit of information, right? I'm going to learn about sales and marketing, and now I'm going to apply it. Okay, I'm going to learn for an hour, and then I'm going to spend another hour practicing it. Okay, I'm going to create an ad. Or whatever you're learning. You're actually implementing it in your business, in your job, in whatever you need that, right? You need to be producing things. That production should be the point of your morning routine. Whether that's improving something in yourself and producing results in working out, or whether that's financial, or whether that's running a business, starting a business, whether that's physically making something with your hand, whatever it is, it doesn't matter to me as much as you need to pick something that works for you. I think it's also super, super important that you have a plan. If you wake up in the morning and you have no plan on what to do, right? You just have the plan of, I am going to get up and I am going to be productive. The chances of you getting up and being productive are very slim because you didn't have a plan. You got up and you're like, I don't really know what to do. It's early in the morning. I'll figure it out. Let me get a glass of water and sit down on my phone and I'll figure out something. No. And there's a good chance of you saying, well, I can't figure out how to be productive, so I'm just going to go back to sleep. I'll try to figure out another day. Your plans also can't be general. You can't say, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna work out. What are you gonna work out? Be specific in your plan. I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna lift weights, and I'm specifically going to squat tomorrow. This is gonna be my morning routine. Oh, I'm gonna get up and I'm going to do 15 minutes of burpees. That's going to be the first thing I do for the day. Just 15 minutes of burpees. Just go. I have a plan, very specific plan. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do burpees, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to do X, Y, Z, boom, boom, boom. I'm going to spend approximately this amount of time or until I hit these results. Then I'm going to move on to the next part of my day. I'm going to move on to the next part of my morning routine, right? So I think, like I said, the time of day you wake up and what specifically you do with your morning routine is not as important as, one, having a specific plan, and two, sticking with what time you get up in the morning. Three, making sure it's producing something, not just consuming useless information off your phone, right? Well, that is it for the podcast today. I just want to implore you and challenge you to try to make an improvement every single day. Try to make a little bit of an improvement every single day in your life in multiple avenues. Try to think of it in categories. Try to think of it like, I'm going to make an improvement in my body, in how I look and how I feel and what I can physically do. I'm going to try to push myself at work in a small area. I'm going to track it. I'm going to try to get better at work. I'm going to try to make more sales. I'm going to try to do this, right? In all aspects, pick every aspect of your life and try to improve it. I'm going to try to improve these relationships. I'm going to try to improve this, right? We talked about conflict and how you can't be on either side of the scared of conflict, avoiding it, but you also can't be the gung-ho, I'm going to come in guns blazing into a conflict that is none of my business. There needs to be a balance. There needs to be wisdom. There is multiple ways to get involved in conflict and to stand up and to protect, right? And not all of them are the same for every situation. And the importance of a morning routine, a productive morning routine, making sure you have a plan, everything like that. Well, I hope this podcast was helpful. I hope you found these topics helpful, and please let me know what other topics you'd like to see. If there are certain questions, certain topics you think would be awesome for me to cover, please let me know. I will cover them, and I will try to figure out how to cover them to the best of my ability. Also, just remember that those shirts just dropped yesterday, and the tank tops should be coming within the next week. So I would love if you head over to my bio, to my Instagram, things like that. All of that will be linked in the description, links to all of those things. Would absolutely love and appreciate it so much if you guys went over there and did that. But hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Like I said, hope you guys found it helpful, and go live your life. Go try to improve. Be wise, everything like that. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will see you on the next one.